You want me
Oh,
to start this one? Oh, my bad.
okay. What's up, y'all? We're back. We're Elevated State. As always, we are two women here just giving our perspectives on things that happen in the world, society, and our lives, your lives, entertainment life, and how we can use those things to learn from them and to apply them to our lives for better or for, well, not for worse, but take the worst and make it better. And, how can we elevate ourselves as people, as individuals? So, what we try to do always is we'll take kind of some topics, either personal topics or topics that just kind of things that's going on today in the entertainment news. Everybody's always up on entertainment news. If it's toxic, people are reading the comments in it and seeing, kind of giving our take on it and how that we can kind of change viewpoints. So for today's topic, we're going to be talking about why is it the norm now or acceptable to have toxic, abusive, domestic violence type of relationships? Like that's celebrated. That's the norm. That's entertainment. That's cool. Let me see what's going to happen next week. And a good example of that we're going to start off with, we got a couple examples, but one of the examples is just this Krishan Rock and Blueface. Now, I know Blueface been known to comment. We ain't that big though, so he probably won't see our podcast or whatever. But I know he's been known to
But
comment.
I'll comment back, Blueface. So be ready if you gonna comment
when people say something. But this is not just specifically about them. Yeah. I mean, there's other examples, like, getting a little bit into like Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, just in general, in our community, in the Black community, it just seems commonplace that people think that that's like part of relationship dysfunction, toxic, abusive, whether it's emotional or physical, is the norm and it's common, and just deal with it. So one of the things that came up, a few weeks ago, and actually Chris Brown commented, which I don't know if he was a good person to comment, but I got what he was saying. He was basically saying that, when me and Rihanna got into it, and we got to fighting, and he did whatever he did to her. I think he beat her up. That he was the most hated man. They wanted to cancel him. Don't buy his music. Don't play his music. But now, fast forwarding, to years later. What is it? More than like 10 years later now. Blueface and Krishan Rock. That's all they do. Like that is what's selling. He beat her up. She beat him up. It's toxic. They curse each other out. She drunk. She giving him a black eye. He done pulled her hair out. Blueface commented and he said, "You picked the wrong girl. Like you picked." He pretty much said that's because you did it to Rihanna. He said,
"It's not funny.
Basically, you should have done it to a basic. I ain't gonna say the word, but a basic beat. I got me a little hood chick. Ain't nobody gonna catch too much." That's not funny. That's not funny at all. So it's a couple of questions that come out of that. Like it's a question comes out of that. Like, does and like the same thing with like Megan Thee Stallion. Like, it's because you met Megan Thee Stallion, so it's kind of like if you're on like the hood wretched spectrum, it almost doesn't apply to you, like the abuse. But just in general, so we're going to talk about this, break this down in a couple of segments, right? But just in general, like looking at like Krishan Rock and Blueface, people are saying that relationship dynamics is the norm. Why would someone say that? Why would somebody think that? Like, this is me asking you, like, why do you think that people feel that way? A lot of our people, our color people, like that's the norm.
Okay, so I got a couple things I gotta say about this. For one, I'm going to do my best to separate the celebrities and just realize that they are human people. Okay. Yeah. I feel like we don't do that enough, where we realize that these are normal, everyday people. They are just in the public eye. So this is going on naturally in a lot of people's lives, where they are literally, both people are abusing each other on a regular day basis. Okay. I believe that this is going on because we think that people in our community feel like that's love. And this can stem far back, all the way back to slavery, but I ain't gonna go all the way back there today. What I will say is it stems to the household. What are you allowing your children to see? What are you doing in front of your children? Why are you allowing your children to think that that is okay? And I'm not trying to be dismissive or rude towards domestic violence people, victims, or people who cause the abuse, but why are you're allowing your child to see that where they think that that's normal? That's why I think it's happening. Is we literally feel like that is normal. That's what love is. Even like when it comes down to whoopings, and some people are not about to agree with me, and some people about to be mad. But y'all sit there and be whooping y'all kids out of anger. You don't be whooping your kids out of discipline. You're whooping your kids because you're angry and you frustrated. So then now then you got the nerve after you whoop them, you tell them, "Oh, I did it because I love you." Now your child has internalized that whooping and beatings is love, when actuality it's not. There's other ways, especially if you're choosing to discipline someone or a child in a state of anger and not in a state of I've exhausted every other resource before I got to that. Y'all are just going straight into beatings because you're angry and you have not formed and analyzed what are you feeling. You just take it out on the child instead of you sit there analyzing what is wrong with you, and while you're internalizing it as anger and taking that anger out on that child. I think it stems from that, and then it just carries on. So now these children have grown up and now they're in relationships, and now when they angry, they just result into hitting somebody instead of having a conversation or just eliminating yourself from the situation. I Trust me, people, I've been there where I've been angry, I'm irritated. I always tell people, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Okay. It doesn't have to respond to anger or physical violence. So I think that's where it stems from. It's just a long line of just seeing physical abuse and being told that this is love when it's not. What about you? What's your thoughts on why is it so common nowadays, and why we have actually, especially Black women, because I've seen so many Black women speak on this, that it's acceptable to be violence towards their spouse or to accept some form of violence, physical violence towards their spouse?
So I think it's a lot. So I think for starters, I think that a lot of people have, and I know this, I don't know if this is a new term, but I hear it a lot lately, but trauma bonded. A lot of people
Yeah.
have trauma bonds with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
that, and it equates to, you think that is love, or the trauma bonds comes from, you do something bad to me, but then typically, especially in like domestic violence relationships, you do something bad to me, but then I'm rewarded right afterwards. Some type of
Oh,
like positive reinforcement. And you said it a lot, right? Like, he beat
yeah.
her up. What did he do? He's
Here
gonna
you
give
go,
her some
flowers.
flowers. He's
Yeah.
going to, and you also trauma bonded too. And it's a lot of gaslighting that goes on in
Yeah.
those dynamics. And if you are a
Mm-hmm.
weak-minded individual, now you are saying, it's my fault. It's something that I did to cause it. I
Mm-hmm.
caused him to lash out. I caused her to lash out because of my actions. Because not only are you bonded by the whole trauma, then positive reinforcement, trauma, positive reinforcement, that cycle, right? You've been gaslit so much and you're not recognizing that it's gaslighting. So you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, not you
Yeah.
believe in what the person is saying. The person that usually causes the trauma makes themselves be the victim and blames you. And it's really a psychological thing that I do think that develops, like you said, back from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
When, I mean, it's so many things that we can go into if we just use the
Yeah.
dynamics. And I do want to say this, I think that just back to Krishan and Blueface, it ain't just one-sided. I think that
No.
there is abuse of, because men can be abused too. I think it's
Two. Yeah.
but yes, you do, like, a lot of times, I think in a lot of households where you grow up in a household where there is abusive type of lifestyles, and let's not count out emotional abuse, right? Because emotional
Yeah.
abuse is just as bad. A lot of times you grow up in households where there is emotional abuse by the parents, because they're frustrated, and it's generational curses, right? They never learned
Yep.
how to healthy ways to deal with their trauma, to deal with their frustration, to deal with their problems. So all they know is to how to be frustrated, how to be, violent, how to be negative. And so they project that onto you. It's a lot of a lot of these people that I think that ends up being in like abusive situations or being abusers typically comes from household that has drug and alcohol involved in it in some type of way. And a lot of times that abuse heightens. I even think like Krishan and Blueface, it seems like it heightens when there's alcohol involved. And a lot of times in a lot of abusive relationships, they a lot of times you'll hear it's like, oh, it's because he was drinking. This is how he gets when he's been drinking. This is how she gets when she's been drinking. So now you have that other disease, that addiction disease that's just breeding into it. And because I do think it's a cultural thing, because you see this a lot in our culture, especially depending on where you're growing up at, like this is normal in the hood, in a lot of urban areas. So you see your mom deal with it. You see this how your dad treat women, your brother, your sister, or whatever. So you'd be like, oh, they say, oh, that's love. And you develop like this is what loves look like. You don't know the other way. That's anything in life, right? If all I saw is blue, the color blue or whatever, I'm not gonna even know what the color red look like. I'm gonna look at the color red and be like, wow, there is a whole nother color because this is all I know. So a lot of it is that this is all that I know. It's a lot of like and I think that anyone that ends up staying in these type of relationships, I do think that they have low self-esteem. It's so many things that individual person has to deal with themselves. You got to deal with, it's definitely stemming from some type of childhood trauma, right?
Yeah,
that
for sure.
You got to deal with that. Now you got to deal with your self-esteem issues. You got to be able to break away from the trauma bond and know that this bond is just not love. And the thing that just amazes me is that, and I try to see from other perspectives, and that's why it's important to say that I think when people stay in these type of relationships, mental health and depression has contributed to it, because it's easy for me on the outside to say, why is you staying? Why is you staying there? Like this fool is hitting y'all, arguing all the time. You hitting him, he hitting you, you in jail, he in jail. Why is you staying? But I can say that because I don't have those mental health issues that this person has.
Exactly.
So I think that that's what we have to deal with. And it's still surprising because when you have people that's not even in their situation, but they're commenting and they're saying, this is the norm though. Like ain't nothing wrong with it. This is love. That just shows that as a culture, how many mental health issues and how we don't really, how as a culture of people, we don't even have a definition as a culture of people of what self-love and self-worth looks like. And that is terrible to me. That I don't know. So I think that it has to start there. It has to start with the individual being able to break away from that dynamics. But not only once they break away from that other individual, they need to take some time to really get some mental health going on and to really get their mental state back on the right track. Or if not, they're just going to repeat that situation with another individual.
Yeah, it's going to always continue to be a cycle if you don't work on yourself. And I think that's something that we have to get better at, which I will say we are getting better at, because I see a lot of, I'm on the positive side of TikTok people. So I see a lot of people talk about going to therapy and so on and so forth. And Black people, Black men and women talking about going to therapy. And I would definitely to elevate for both of them, because it's not just, because I think a lot of people are just viewing Krishan as the victim, but he is the victim as well. Both of them are dealing with a lot of issues mentally, for them to continue to allow that to occur within their lives and for them to think that that is okay. They're both dealing with things that they both need to work on and heal, but they need to do that individually, not together. Because if they continue to do that together, I don't think it's going to bring anything positive out of it, because it's going to always be, this person's problem. So you go always bring it up when you got a chance. And everybody don't heal at the same rate. So you might be healing perfectly, going on a steadfast journey, but this person's taking a sweet time. and that person can pull you back, whether you want to believe it or not. So I definitely think for them to both elevate is to possibly separate and then find some form of healing, whether that is therapy, going to church more, because I know that she's from what I've seen, she
I would
definitely
say she's
believes in God.
spiritual.
She's very spiritual. She believes in God, and I love that. And this just shows that God has a definitely has a plan for her. And because everybody finds her so entertaining, and she seems like she's actually a sweet girl from what I've seen. Uh, but she just needs to work on herself, and so does Blueface. I feel like everybody in any form of, first off, everybody, not, you just don't got to be in an abusive situation or have some childhood trauma. Everybody should be attending some form of therapy or some form of counseling just to see how your life is going and how they can help you be better, because we all want to elevate at the end of the day and evolve. So I definitely would suggest that they get some help, and if that's therapy, attending church more, finding a church home, church groups, um getting closer with God, whatever you feel like will work best for you, I would definitely suggest that for them. Or, like I said, for anybody who believes that that behavior is okay and normal, because it's not. That is not how love should be. You should not be having bruises, having hair ripped out, punching. You should not have to use your physical body to express that you love somebody in that type of way. Okay, you should not be putting your hands on people when you are upset. That is not okay. It's not. But
Do
what's your
you
take?
do you think that some people, this is what I was about to say, and I wonder if you agree. I think some people know that it's not love, or they know, but they just take it because of their circumstances. And what I mean by that,
Mm,
like, not necessarily Krishan and Blueface, but just like in general, like a lot of times, like people pray, and I actually see the opposite. Like when I was watching their show a little bit, he seemed like more the victim. Like he seemed like more the
yeah.
calm one than her.
I
But
don't think I ever watched the show, but from clips.
for some of the clips, like he seemed like the more calm one. I'm not saying that he should put his
Mm,
hands on her, but it seems like he's never the what is it, the aggressor.
the
He
aggressor.
doesn't seem like he's ever the aggressor in the situation. It seems like that's how she deals with a lot of stuff, with either violence or some type of aggressive behavior. But what I was gonna say is that, do you think, or if you look at like percentage wise, how often do you think that? I think that some people stay in these situations because of the benefit. Because a lot of people, and even like some of the women, if you look at the women that are saying like that's love, like that's what it is, or even a man, like me and my girl do it all the time. That's how we love each other. Look at the type of people that they are. You never see like a lot of like
Mm,
really like educated people making those comments, or people that got like their life together and stuff like that. It's either always one or two things that I notice. Either both people that probably don't come for nothing because they don't know any better, or someone that, like when it's a woman, I see like the woman, she didn't have anything. Maybe she was, like
mm,
this, she was poor or didn't have a lot going for herself. And this dude somehow elevated her life, like with Krishan. Financially
mm,
gave her fame or something. So now that's her bond to this person. So now you're looking at this
mm.
person as like, this is my God.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be this or that. If it wasn't for him, I'd still be living over here. I would still be homeless. I still wouldn't be that. So you almost feel like you owe it to this person.
Hmm.
Like I have an obligation to this person. I owe, like, it's like you feel like you owe your life to this person.
Yeah.
And so that way you accept and take whatever abuse they give you. You feel like it still doesn't equate to all the good that they done for you. Like it doesn't matter. He can hit me, but he put me in this nice house. He can hit me, but he bought me this car. So it's almost like they know that they shouldn't have to deal with it, but they stay because of what this person has done for them. And now they put this person up on a pedestal that they don't deserve to
Mhm.
be on. Like, how common do you think that scenario is? Because I was just thinking, like, it's only a certain demographics, economical
But then,
demographics, educational demographics, people that say like this is the norm.
mhm. I definitely feel like that plays a huge part in that. I definitely feel like that got to be majority of the people who go through that, because ain't no way. anybody who had a sustainable lifestyle their entire life going to accept, and sustainable, I'm not just talking about financially, people, I'm talking about mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They have had some form of substance always given to them in every form and every aspect, that they will be accepting that type of behavior. They won't, because they know better. They've seen better and they know better, so they're going to do better. People who've seen just violence all their life and hasn't been educated on these forms of abuse, or haven't been educated on, well, let me say it, because they give you these classes typically in any high school, but hasn't seen anything positive, or haven't come from somewhere where they can see more for themselves, yeah, they probably do accept it. I feel like that's probably the people who said that that is okay. That's 100% of those people probably didn't have much, or not even have much. Let me change that wording. They didn't see much, or they think that that's all they can get. It's like you settling. Once again, we're back to that. You're settling for what you feel is love, when it's actually more to love than that. What do you think people can do to prevent this from happening, like generations on? How can people break this curse, this trauma bonding, the cycle of abuse? How do you feel like we as a people can elevate from that and grow and be better for the next generation?
I think that couple of things. So one of the things is that if you are in a household that you may have experienced domestic violence, um I think that it's important for us, whether we have to meditate on this daily, to understand that you don't have to be a product of your environment. So
Hmm.
like once we embed that in our brain at a young age, it doesn't matter what our mom's saying, dad's saying, what we see. If you embed in yourself that you don't have to be a product of your environment, and really believe that and strive for that, I think that that would help to a certain extent prevent people from getting in these situations, these domestic violence situations, because you feel like there's nothing else out there. Um, I also think that educating ourselves on like the warning signs, because I believe
Hmm.
before somebody actually hits you, or before somebody becomes emotionally abusive, and I'm an advocate for emotional abuse because I think that gets overlooked, and
It
that's
does.
bad. That can really diminish your mental health. But I think it's
Hmm.
also important to see the warning signs, like the telltale signs, because usually it's something there. Like maybe they like overly jealous, or they just got a little bit aggressive when you felt like their behavior didn't equate the situation that's going on. I think that it's important to identify those things early on and remove yourself from the situation. Like it's not going to get better. It's like you always
No.
say, like if someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time. Like, it's typically not going to get better.
Hmm.
Um, Especially when it's those unwarranted responses, and you like, is this person crazy? If you gotta do
Hmm.
that and be like, is that crazy? They probably
If you got
crazy.
to think about it,
They probably crazy.
they probably crazy. Dip on out.
So like those are the things, like understanding you do not have to be a product of your environment, and then that um identifying the warning signs before you get in too deep. And I guess I do have one more thing, not even two things. The third thing, if you have got to the point where you feel like you have got in too deep, that person is not your God. They're not your savior. You'll be able to make it without them. I always say this, and I apply this to everything in my life when I'm dealing with something hard. I always say that to me, the worst pain to experience is the death of a loved one, the death of someone that I truly love and they die. If I can wake up day after day knowing I'm never going to see that person again, knowing I'm never going to hear their voice again, I can still get up and make it day after day, then you can get over anything and survive through anything. And I think that that's what people have to understand and tell themselves. And mental health is important. Like you got to have mental health checkups. Um, those are things that you should be cognizant of. And just apply those things. And I think that will at least help you either not get yourself in that situation, or if you are in that situation, help you get out of those situations.
Yeah.
What about you?
Pretty much the same thing, making sure that you're checking yourself, being self-aware. I think that is something that a lot of us lack. We are very quick to point out what somebody else have done or what other people are doing. So every time you want to throw out what somebody else did, make sure you remember what you did too. So be aware of yourself and be aware of what you may be going through or what you're experiencing, so you can check yourself and remove yourself from certain situations if you know that you are either the problem, or every time you're in a situation something happens and then now you are a victim to that situation. So be cognitive of what you're doing and being aware of yourself. um, and then having positive people around you is very important as well. I think sometimes we completely forget how important it is of the people that we hang with, because the people that you hang with is so important. They can definitely pull you out of a situation, or they definitely make you realize that you might be making the wrong decision in a certain situation. So that as well. And then for you to just be self-aware, I always write everything down. I have so many journals back here where I just write everything down, because I'm gonna be able to point out what I did. You ain't gonna be able to tell me I did something. Nah. And then that also helps with gaslighting too. I'm gonna be very transparent. That's gonna help with gaslighting too, because somebody can sit there and gaslight you so well that you don't you know the exact story, you was there, and they tell you something so good that you like, maybe I did do that.
Yeah.
And you didn't even do that. It happens to me before, y'all. That's why I'm telling y'all, write everything down so you can be aware of what you've done, and be present with yourself. And be aware, just be aware of what you're doing. So do that so you can always be aware and pull yourself out of situations if you can, and then have people around you who can help you during that process as well.
I agree. You definitely have to have, I don't care if it's just one person. Like, you gotta have somebody that you're able to talk to. Like, situations
Mm-hmm.
like this you can't handle by yourself. Like, you gotta have somebody. And it's even probably worse for men, because I know it's difficult for men to go to like their friends and be like, "Man, my girl is abusing me," whether it's physically or
And
emotional.
man, y'all so petty. It's not funny, but I don't know why it just make me laugh, because y'all men be laughing at stuff that's not even funny. Like, your man could come to you. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where literally a guy could tell his friend something serious and they laugh. They laugh and just be laughing at them. Don't do that to your friend. Be a good friend and actually sit there and listen to your friend what they're going through. Sorry, had to cut you off for that one. But I've seen that so many times where other men just like find it funny, and it's not. They're actually going through something and they just tried to confide in you and you just laughed.
That is true. That is true. I've done that, and I've tried not to laugh.
That's
I
I, the
I
reason why I called it out, because I do that too, but I only do that with people that I know who don't take nothing serious. I'm
like,
trying not to
I'll
hurt
laugh, but then I'll be like, all right, like, no, for real, I'm
them. Yeah,
sorry.
for real.
Like, let's come on. But sometimes I'll be prepared for what my ears are about to hear. And I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that's what you was gonna say.
Give me a
Um,
warning or shoot me a text first. Cause if you just come to me and say something crazy, I'm gonna be like, what? And like die laughing. Just shoot me a text first. And then I'll hit you up.
do
So I
you
know you
think
here.
that, like, we mentioned this, so again, we said we're gonna break it in segments or whatever, and we mentioned this at the top of the podcast.
Yeah.
Do you think that there was some truth in what Blueface was saying? And now we're thinking about, the Krishan Rocks, the Megan Thee Stallions, or Rihanna, even though that was a long time ago. That he was like that, certain women ain't gonna have that type of respect. Like, he was pretty much saying, look, it's Krishan though. Like, look how she acts or whatever. Like, she deserves whatever she gets. Or, women was like, okay, you live that life or whatever. Like Megan, like, almost not even sympathizing with them. Like they took the fact that these are still women, and not even wanting to sympathize with them with whatever they went through because of who they are. Do you think, how important of a factor do you think that is? Like, is there some truth in what Blueface is saying?
To be transparent, yes. Unfortunately, it is. It's I don't like to bring race into every situation, but let's be transparent. If a white woman just says she got abused, and then a black woman says she's got abused, who is everybody gonna believe first?
That's true.
The white woman. We're not gonna sit there and be like we're gonna look at the black woman, but that also comes from, and that's me thinking way too deep in it. It comes from that strong. Black women are strong. We almost have like this supernatural thing about us when actuality we just as human as you are.
Right.
We
We
was
believe
born to be.
blood.
Exactly. So it's that standard that has been put on us that we are just these supernatural strong creatures, so that when something like this does occur, it's almost like, well, you should know how to defend yourself, sis. Hit him back. It's almost literally like that. It gives very much that. So when he said, well, you got the wrong type of woman, he basically said, oh, you got a woman that once she say it, everybody gonna believe her. That's basically what he said. He was like, oh, once you say that woman is the type where if she say it, everybody gonna believe her. This woman, she gonna say it, they not gonna believe her because she violent as well. So if you get somebody who violent, who match your violence, then she probably not gonna call the police or say anything about nothing because she match your violence. But a girl who don't match your violence gonna call the police on you, sir.
Yes, he was like, you picked Rihanna. She just performed at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Like he said, it's basically that. Like, you know who you can do certain things with and who you can't. It's like code switching. It's almost like code switching. Like, okay, well, I'm going to choose this avenue. I'm going to say these words to prevent me from looking like A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. I'm going to choose this woman. So when something does happen, y'all can be like, oh, she violent too. So she or it's gonna be something like, oh, he just hit her. Well, she be hitting him all the time. So he got his lick back. That's pretty much what he basically said. Like, choose somebody who gonna match your violence, basically, or choose somebody who either nobody gonna believe or who gonna stick around and not say nothing. So, what's your thoughts on that? What do you think the reason behind him saying that or what he meant by that?
Nah, I think that it's true. Like, unfortunately, it is true. Like, because people gonna look at that. That's like anything, right? When you're trying to determine, like, okay, what's the truth or what really happened, you're gonna look at you're your own character witness. Like, where's your credibility? Unfortunately, and I'm not saying that it's right or anything, but like you said, right, as Black women, you already have the stigma that you're strong, you can handle anything, like, so you almost seen as not as sensitive, not as delicate as other women. So that's already a given. When you add on that layer of you walking around talking about I'm a bad this, I do whatever, pow, 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 what you want to do or whatever, you further adding on to that stigma. So then people is gonna be like, oh, you don't need nobody to come to your rescue. You got it. Yep. You're not looked at as a damsel in distress, so you're not going to get the same treatment. So then you add that on to like how people in certain urban communities are viewed. That's why it's common. You're not going to get any special treatment. You're not going to be seen as a victim. There's probably going to be less domestic violence programs, intervention programs, anything like that, because people are already going to look at you. You already lost credibility just because you're a Black woman. Then you further lose credibility the way that you present yourself. Should that be a consideration at all whatsoever? No. But as we all know, the society that we live in, your credibility for a lot of things is always going to be based off of how you present yourself.
Yep.
So I agree with him. Not saying that it's right, but yeah, you picked the billionaire Fenty you know, get you a little
Yeah.
Keisha down the street, you probably would have been all right. But no, just playing. Nobody, it doesn't matter where you come
Nobody
from, what your
deserves that.
background is. Nobody has the right, men or women. Nobody should
Yeah.
lay hands on anybody.
No.
And I am an advocate for. And people may disagree or whatever. I know men are naturally stronger than women. But I'm an advocate for. If you don't want to be hit, don't hit nobody, whether you're a woman or a man. I don't care if you're a woman. You don't. If you don't want to get hit back, don't swing like a man if you don't want to get hit back. That's all I'm saying. Nobody should be.
Or if you decide to swing, be prepared to get swung on. Like
Yes.
there is no reason why you should be hitting people. And I know y'all seen the videos where like women would hit somebody, hit a male, and then he hit her back so hard and she's like shocked. Girl, you just hit him. You should have been prepared to
Right.
get
Because
hit back.
some things are a reaction.
Yeah.
Some things are a reaction. So
Because I'm gonna be like, wait a minute.
my last question is so, well, not the last question. Did we ask like what can we learn from this to elevate ourselves? We did. We went over that, right? Like what we can learn from it.
Yeah.
So kind of like to tie it back into ourselves, any personalized experiences that we have that we can share, and what did we learn from that? Because I think that it's good to speak on these topics, but also so people know like a lot of these topics may be things that we've experienced. It may not have been violence for us. It could have been a violence around family members or people that we know, or it may not have been like physical violence. It may have been emotional abuse, because again, I think that emotional abuse is so prevalent, but it doesn't get talked about because it doesn't leave physical scars, but it leaves so many emotional scars that that needs to be addressed as well.
I would definitely say one of my first relationships was definitely mentally abusive, and not in the way of like what y'all think mentally abusive is, where he's like tearing me down or anything. It was if something happened between us two, where we like, let's just say an argument happened. He was so good at gaslighting that I would literally forget my own experience of what happened in that argument. That's how good it was. Like it was so narcissistic and manipulative that I would literally believe like what he just told me is what happened when I literally was in the situation. So I clearly have a remembering of what happened. But this man was so good at gaslighting me that I was like, I did start the argument. It was me. It was me. And let me tell y'all, sometimes if you're in a relationship like that for so long, it's gonna take you some therapy to realize all those situations. Literally, I'll be transparent. I had a therapy situation where I could remember something in the argument, and I really wanted to know what happened because I really just remembered his perspective. And she was like, "You're only telling me what it sounds like what he told you. It doesn't even sound like what you experienced. It's like what he told you." And I thought about it like, ma'am, you right. And we did a cognitive interview. And y'all, this man really had me believing I did something wrong when it was him. But yeah, so I would say mental abuse is very strong. And I'd be laughing about stuff like this because I came out of the situation. And it's like once you come out of the situation, you find everything lighthearted, especially me, because I'm gonna be transparent. I don't take nothing real serious until when I'm out of it. After I'm out of it, I kind of find it like, damn, that really happened, and I kind of find it funny. Dark humor. If you're not a dark humor type of person, you probably wouldn't get me. You probably would be like, she's so messed up. No, I healed from it. That's why I find it funny. Um, but like I said, doing that, like I experienced gaslighting, and he was very narcissistic and manipulative. But one thing that I learned when I went to therapy was told to write down situations, especially when I'm upset or when an argument happens. Write things down so I don't get into that mindset where I remember what somebody told me, where I can actually remember what I felt in that situation, and what I felt in that situation and what I feel like happened. Because at the end of the day, it's still going to be your story, his story, and the truth. So I still have to write down what I really felt in those situations. So for me to come out of that, I once again went to therapy, and I was writing things down. While I was in that relationship, I began therapy, and that's when I realized, girl, you was getting gaslit. Like he lighting that, he like, where my little light at? He lighting that thing up, girl. So therapy made me realize that. So I definitely would suggest any woman or anybody to go to therapy so you can pinpoint what exactly is going on, or you can at least have the definition. Heck, you can look this stuff up on YouTube, Google, and realize what you are dealing with. Because sometimes you don't realize what you're dealing with because they're that good at manipulating or just abusing you mentally, and you don't realize it until you're out of the situation, or people around you pinpoint those things. But what about you? Have you experienced any form of abuse mentally, physically? And if you're willing to share, and then how did you get yourself out of that?
Yeah. So both actually,
Hmm.
physical and mental. So I would say, which is surprisingly, right? Because it's like usually when you, and it goes back to what I said, people could see something growing up like that's never going to be me, and it ends up being you. So
Yeah.
it's a strange phenomenon. Um, but I would say the mental part was a lot of, yes, gaslighting is serious. People identify
It
that.
is.
The mental part was a lot of gaslighting and a lot of lowering my self-esteem. So it would be a lot of things where, of course, like you're like, I know this made me feel this way. I know this is what happened. But then the gaslighting would take effect, and you'd be like, okay, well, maybe that was my fault. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I can see how I caused that or whatever. It wasn't really what you did. And this person all along is just being manipulative and doing stuff wrong. And so now once that happens so much, you either, for one, for me, what ends up happening is like now I'm walking on eggshells, like I won't say too much or whatever, because I don't want what I'm saying to be taken the wrong way. I don't want to cause the argument or whatever. I want to keep everything copacetic or whatever. So it's like I'm just unhappy. And then the other part of the mental thing was, like I said, with lowering your self-esteem. So what a lot of people will do, and that's why I say that if someone can get a hold of your brain and mind, like that's very, very destructive. So
Hmm.
like lowering your self-esteem. So what people do is, the whole I can't have you, nobody else can. Well, sometimes,
Yep.
at least for me in my experience, it wasn't the whole, if I can't have you, nobody else can, I'm going to do something to you. It was, I'm going to make you think that you're nothing without me.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, I'm your breath, I'm your water. Without me, you won't be able to survive. So I
Hmm.
had that mental bondage where I'm like, okay, like he's right, like, because I don't know how to do this. And then when you topple that to when you're young and somebody is older, like they have more life experiences, just knows a little bit more, and you're still in the stage where you're mentally developing because you're so young, right? So it was
Hmm.
a lot of that. So the gaslighting and a lot of, I'm going to lower your self-esteem. Somebody with low self-esteem, they don't have the strength to walk away. So
No.
now it's like I was just like a little puppy dog, like just following around everywhere. And I really truly believe, like, he's right. Nobody's gonna ever want me. Uh,
Hmm.
I won't amount to anything. And as a woman, like, I need to do this better or do that better. Actually, without him, he's helping me. And so all of this stuff. And so how I got out of that situation is I had to actually like physically remove myself from that person. I knew
Hmm.
that I wasn't strong enough to get out of the situation by seeing that person every day and like even being in the same city. Like I got,
Hmm.
like, so I was like,
Yeah.
I have to get out the situation, because for me, it's like I was so weak that I could have it was times that I went like a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. But then it's the trauma bond, right? You come with some
Yep.
flowers, I had time to think
Girl.
about it,
Hmm.
and
I'm
and then
sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. And then you go back. So for me, I knew that that was what I had to do. I'm like, I had to do the complete out of sight, out of mind thing. So that's what I
Yeah.
did. And that's how I got out of that situation. But that's why I say that sometimes we repeat cycles and we don't know why. And so until we really take the time to step back and be like, okay, it is something within me that's making
Yeah.
me steady pick the same type of person. And so I did have a physical situation also where it was alcohol involved, and like the person would they would be, and that's the trauma bond, right? The
Yeah.
person is sweet as pie when they wasn't drinking. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, running your bath water, giving you a bath, buying you stuff, like cooking,
Mhm.
making sure you good, you watching movies, having a ball. So you're like, I'm like, oh my God, he's perfect. I love him. I love him. He's so attentive to my needs, emotionally, physically. Da, da, da.
Mhm.
This mug gets to drinking. Now it's like Jacqueline High. So now he's like physically
Mm.
abusive. Like, oh, like
Yeah.
it becomes like his his reality of what was actually going on in the world was so far from the truth. Like he would start like accusing me of stuff like, oh, you're seeing this person, you're doing that. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Um,
Mhm.
I who was you talking to? I thought I heard a guy's voice. Like, no, you didn't hear anybody. Like, it was bad psychologically, where I'm like, okay, he has his own psychological issues that he's dealing with. He's trying to deal with
Yeah.
his issues by drinking. And by drinking, all that's doing is making him further have these psychological issues. And now he's taking out on me physically. So what he would do
Yeah.
is he would get to drinking, and now he would just get jealous. And he was just like, I know you're
Mm.
cheating, I know you're doing this or whatever. And I'm like, not. So because he like, you're seeing somebody else, that was his reason for wanting to like put his hands on me. And so it
Mm.
took me a minute because again, that's where the trauma bond comes in at, because then I'm like, it's because he was drinking. It's because he was drinking. And when
Mhm.
he's not drinking, he's not like this. And
He's
so
not a
then
bad
you
guy.
go a
It's
couple of
just the
weeks or whatever, right?
alcohol.
And he's like, and he's telling you, I'm not gonna take another drink again. I'm not gonna drink. And you go these few weeks, maybe sometimes it's even a month. And if it was a month is good. And
Mhm.
you're like, okay, um everything is perfect. Like this is why I'm staying, because I know it's in him. I know who he
Yeah.
really is. That alcoholic person is not him. And after a while I'm just like, and what made me get out of that situation is I said, I've explained to you what I need from you in order
Mhm.
for me to be happy, in order for us to be together. And the only thing that I've ever said is that you have to stop drinking, because you
Mhm.
swear you love me to death. You swear that you want to spend the rest of your life with me and grow old and gray with me. And so if you feel that strongly about me and love me that much, and you become this completely other person when you're drinking, and if you love me that much, you would stop it. You would stop the drink.
Yeah.
That was literally his only issue, and he couldn't do that. And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to walk away, because that means that you love alcohol more than you love me. And I'm not gonna
Yeah.
keep putting myself in this situation. Like, it's not
Mhm.
even worth it, because to me that answered my question. Because in my mind, if I love something so strongly, I'm not gonna let anything else take it away. Whether if I have to go
Yeah.
to AAU classes, substance abuse, you're not willing to do any of that, and I'm telling you that that's your problem because you become crazy. I'm walking
Mhm.
away. And like for me, a lot of times for me is like, if I'm strong and adamant on walking away, I'm not too depending on why I walked away. I'm not too
Mhm.
keen on giving somebody another chance. But in this
Yeah.
situation, I did, like, walked away for
Mm.
like months. And he was like that, I had some time or whatever. I'm not doing this. I changed, and I believed it, right? Because the
Mhm.
heart wants what it wants. So you like,
Yeah.
I love this person. So gave another chance. But I said, like, this other chance, it wasn't gonna be no third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance. Like, this was the other chance. Cause I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I still was in love. I'm like, it's been some months now. You said that you didn't work on this and that or whatever. Let me see. Like I said, the warning signs come before the action. When I saw the first
Yeah.
warning sign, which was some talking crazy in a conversation, and I smelled like liquor, I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I ain't even got to stay to see how the story is gonna end, because you've already shown me that there has not been any change to the situation.
Yeah.
So those are my things. So sometimes you have to, if you're not strong, I guess that's the elevation moment, right? If you're not strong enough to remove yourself from the situation by still being in a vicinity with that person, sometimes you gotta move away. If you're able to,
Yep.
I had to move hundreds of miles away, uh,
Mhm.
because I wasn't strong enough, because I knew I was going to see them. We had mutual friends and stuff like that. It was no way that I wasn't going to be able to interact with this person. So I had to do that for myself. So that's
Mhm.
always the option, to move away. The other options, like I said, in this particular situation, it took me a minute. Um, but then you have to realize who's more important. Like, you gotta love yourself more than the other person love you or whatever. And once you, it's the self-esteem thing.
Yep.
Once you, like, you know, I love myself more and I'm worth more than the situation, it's easy for you to walk away from that situation, no matter how much
Yep.
you love that other person.
And just to like run it back, yes, they do play, because I was like, oh, it wasn't nothing self-esteem wise. Let me run that back. Okay. It was more of a, like you said, like the you ain't gonna have, like, you're not gonna, what he did for me, the person was for me, the person who gaslighted me was, um I'm a black man, I'm this tall, I work, I'm
Yes.
educated, I make this money, you're not gonna find another me.
Yes. Yes.
You're not. And that's what played on me, you guys, because I'm just like, he's right. This is rare. And he don't got no kids. This is rare. You're right. I should stay. I should stay. And that's what got me. So it wasn't like him like, oh, you look like this, oh, you look like that. It was more of, you're not going to find
That was
another me.
my
So
situation
you
too. The one that was the
see,
mental abuse. Yes.
it was, you're not gonna find another me. So what you doing?
And unfortunately, when you look around and you like, well, the pickings is slim, you start to believe that, not knowing
You
it's a
do.
wall out there.
Mm-hmm. Cause man, I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right.
And then you start to rationalize, he really ain't that bad though.
Bad,
Like, really,
yeah.
he ain't really that bad.
Bad, yeah. That's what really plays in your head. Like, oh, he really not that bad, you know. And he right, he do got all of these. Like, he's top notch. So you're right. It's not many men out here like that. So I might as well stay
And
and
you have
just
so many
deal with
women
it.
that say that. They say that I'd
Yeah.
rather have half a man or no man, or, you
Yep.
know, at least he provides this. That's better than sometimes, you know, it's all right to sometimes no man is better than the half.
Better. And let me just say this, because I know I'm gonna send this to faith, um, and how you can elevate your faith and how you know if you're growing in your faith. If you question if there is somebody out there for you and that you're going to choose to stay in this, you're not as strong in your faith as you think you are. If you believe that you were made for a man and the man was meant for you, God ain't gonna allow you to stay in that. You need to believe so hard
Yeah.
that you're right, God, you do got something better for me. So why will I stay?
And that was my
Why should
thing.
I?
That was my growth moment when I was
Yep.
like, I realized, like, nah, you can't love me the way that you said, because if you was for me, you would change these behaviors that's not
Yep.
coming, that's hurting me. That was my growth moment in my conversation with God. Like, God,
Mm-hmm.
you right. Cause
Yep.
God to be like, I mean, I done hit you on the head a couple of times.
God be like, now I don't put you on this roller coaster and you don't got sick 36
Like,
times and you still want to stay. Okay, go ahead. And you got to realize that too with faith. God gonna let you sit in something. If you continue to be stupid, you're gonna go through that lesson a couple times.
yeah.
Go ahead and be stupid again. Go ahead. Go ahead. So I would tell anybody, especially if you into your faith and you spiritual, when it comes to these men, if you believe that God has somebody for you and you are a mate, you need to believe in that and trust in God for that. You shouldn't be like, oh, well, I'll stay with him because, or try to change people. I see that happen all the time. We try to change somebody. That person don't showed you who they are.
Mm-hmm. You can't change
Believe them.
nobody.
You
They gotta
can't.
change themselves. They gotta want it.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time. I can't want it more. That's my people will tell you. That's my slogan now. I can't
Yep.
want it more than you want it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, y'all, that was our personal experience and how we've grown from mental abuse, physical abuse, and what we feel like can help you guys. So how we've elevated and how we feel like you guys can elevate it. If you guys have any other suggestions for people who are going through any form of domestic violence or any form of violence, we're gonna put the number on here as well, the little number, hot chat number on here as well. And comment what you feel like will be the best solution as well.
All right. As always, stay elevated. We out.
Well,
Oh no.
wait a minute, you said stay elevated. Some people gonna take that as like you didn't
Continue to
catch it.
elevate.
Yeah. Because you said stay elevated. Somebody be like, yeah, let me roll this blunt up again. So,
oh no. Continue to elevate your life in a positive way,
that was just
non-drug
me.
related. Elevate your mind. There you go.
Yeah, it was in my mind where I'm like, somebody gonna take that ass. That was me. Okay.
She's
Bye,
the
y'all.
somebody. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. All right, you guys just comment. Let us know. We like to hear from you. What your thoughts are. You know, if you want to share your situation, how you got out of domestic abuse. Again, it's not always physical. Emotional is just as draining. If you want to share how you got out of it, your words of encouragement and your story, your testimony can help somebody else. All right.